From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to OpenLine. My name is Nick Leonardo. I'm the News Channel 5 legal analyst, and I'm sitting in for Amy Rao this evening, who will be joining us, very soon. This is a special segment of OpenLine that we do usually on the fourth Thursday of each month, and this is where you, the viewer, get to call in and ask questions of an attorney, and we call this Ask a Lawyer. Maybe you've gone through a divorce, you're having child custody issues, maybe it's a criminal problem, maybe you have a problem with wills and estates, or some sort of, been involved in an accident. But this is your opportunity to call in and have our panel of lawyers answer any questions that you have. The number will be placed on the bottom of the screen. It's 737-PLUS or 737-7587. Tonight we are joined once again by someone who is no stranger to News Channel 5. I'm sure that you've seen him before on TV with maybe some of his commercials, or maybe you've seen him with his philanthropic endeavors, but he is definitely a great lawyer, and we're pleased to have him, Kevin Kennedy.
Thank
Good
you,
evening,
Nick.
Kevin Kennedy.
Always good to be with you.
Well, Kevin, I guess we saw in the news this week where there was a shooting.
Wow, we talked about that a little earlier. And so what are all the legal ramifications that came out of that?
Right.
Well, if you're in a business and you work at a business, which there's thousands and tens of thousands in the viewing audience, the word to learn from this is caution. And if you see something, that extrasensory perception, the look in their eye, then use your best judgment. And because if there are mental issues, you're going to have to deal with the consequences. If you own a business, are you providing a safe and secure environment for all your people? And again, if personal knowledge, it'll always come back. Did you know? Would a reasonable person have known? And what did you do? What steps did you take to try to protect others? So it's a lot to learn. We haven't seen anything on that kind of magnitude on the actual guys who are out here, the commentators and the different ones, the interviewers. So it was something else. It shocked the nation to see it. And so be aware.
Well, and one thing that I believe I saw on the news, some of the reports, was that this particular assailant was previously employed by the news station, and I think that maybe there had been some issue that they had reported to the HR department or to the higher-ups, and so I guess the question would be for the viewers, does that create any liability if a company knows that something could have gone on? What does the company need to do?
Well, the company needs to take that, have a policy in effect, put it in their handbook, and try to educate, inform their employees what the policy is. And when I stop and think about this kind of situation, it could happen anywhere. And we do a lot of cases where someone is really mistreated, and I'm telling you, go get a lawyer. Don't let it just simmer until people snap. And that's why they come in and they say, Kevin, if you don't sue these guys right now, I don't want to go back. And they have their wives there, and I say, whatever you do, don't let them go into that kind of situation, because it's disastrous. That's why we have courts. That's why we have lawyers. There's liability. You can make them pay for the unpleasant work environment you're thrust in.
Well, I think one of the questions that I get on a regular basis, is having to do with someone who's been fired or terminated, and they want to know if they have a cause of action. So, again, what do you tell folks when you get those kinds of phone calls? Immediately
come in and talk to a lawyer. Discuss it. The Bible says the wise seek the counsel of others. I like to talk through these things, and I'm one of the guys that's got the most experience at my law firm. There's lots of lawyers, but I'll even talk with the paralegals. I'd say, what is your gut feeling? I bring in, and we all discuss it. It's the team approach. You've heard me say on this show before, there's no such thing as the perfect lawyer, but you get a group of lawyers together, you put you and I together, they're going to have a hard time beating us, because we're going to analyze it, and when we agree, there's power in that. And a lot of times you can't think of it in the first setting, and you say, well, Kevin, did you think? I said, I don't know why I did. That's one of the biggest puzzles of my legal career. When I was a young lawyer, why didn't I think of all these great ideas? And now that I've gotten older, I've questioned myself all these years. Well, your mind just wasn't mature enough, and you hadn't had all the experiences. And so we have to think in a creative mode. Proactive approach. Live by it.
And I would agree with you that there is no substitute for experience, especially in the practice of law, Kevin.
Yes. That's why they call it the practice law. We practice and we practice and we practice.
That's exactly right. For those of you that are watching, call in. The phone lines, we've got a couple of callers right now, but 737-plus, 737-7587. You can ask Kevin your question. Let's go ahead. We got a couple of calls.
All right, fire away, Nick.
Line 1 is Amy. Are you there, Amy?
Yes, I am.
Good evening. What's your question for Mr. Kennedy?
Okay, I had like a debt collector, and they talking about garnishing my check. I tried to make a settlement for like $350, but they didn't allow me to do it.
Okay.
So I was just trying to see.
All right.
If they try and garnish my check, because they wrote me a letter, they voided my check because we had already sent a check in for like $350.
Okay, here's the situation. First off, you know, these debt agencies, debt collection agencies, they are going to be governed by the Fair Debt Practices Act. One of the things, they'll have to sue you. They can't just send you a letter and say, I'm going to garnish you. That's just blowing smoke or intimidation and try to scare you to make a higher payment than what you really should have to do. So first, they cannot garnish you without getting a judgment against you. They're going to have to sue you, give you notice. That satisfies the due process issue. You have a right to go in and dispute those claims. And another word to the wise, if you are summoned to court, go. If you get a civil summons, respond. Hire a lawyer. Talk to a lawyer. And because even what we see a lot, Nick, someone says, okay, well, we'll do this. They cut a deal. They say, okay, we're going to pay the $350. They pay the $350, then they get sued. And they say, well, that wasn't the deal. There's unscrupulous debt collectors, so I like to put things in writing. I like to have a lawyer, because when you invest in a lawyer, you're going to avoid a whole lot of problems down the road. In fact, I had one 10 years ago that worked for me, and we settled the case. It was completely settled, and then a few years later, a different company had bought that and tried to collect again, and we still had our documentation, and we got it worked out.
You're exactly right. There's a lot to collecting a debt, and that's why you need a lawyer, because there's so many things that a lawyer can actually do to help you, you know, to minimize
And a lot
the
of
pain.
times you could talk to a lawyer, for instance, if that was a credit card debt they're trying to collect and it's over 6 years, well, the first thing the lawyer's going to say, statute of limitations has run. They sat on their rights too long. You don't owe the debt. You can voluntarily pay the debt. They could intimidate you. They could say, we're going to garnish you. We're going to sue you. But all the lawyers got to say, hello, come in. The statute of limitations has run.
That's exactly right. Good question, Amy. All right, let's see here on line 2. I believe we have Betty. Good evening, Betty.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What's your question from Mr. Kennedy?
What can you do when you have a mentally ill family member? Of course, the person doesn't realize that anything is wrong. They think God is talking to them. What can you do to try to get that person some help?
Great question.
Yes. Lots of families have these issues, lots of family, and you know, it's a puzzle to me too on how people go through life and they've been completely normal, lived a productive life, and then these mental issues start developing. And who sees it first? Family members. One of the things that I would say, again, try to get them to a doctor. What you can use, you're going to need, if you have to do a conservatorship, 2 doctors to say that this person cannot take care of their affairs. That might be one avenue of pursuit. The other, if it's getting out of hand, you can always call the police. They'll take people to the hospital, have them evaluated. But they won't keep them over a prolonged time. And you know, mental issues are progressive. They can get worse. And so again, we go back to the theory under the law. You're going to have to protect. Are they a danger to themselves? Are they a danger to others? If so, you've got to immediately do something. And quite frankly, again, it's so heartbreaking to see a family member and they're there, but their mind is not. And if they have lucid moments, you could get powers of attorneys signed. That would be something that you should consider doing, and trying to help them with their finances. It creates a fiduciary responsibility between you and the person that has this mental handicap.
And one of the things that I see quite a bit, or one of the questions I get, is people have a power of attorney,
yes.
and they think that that would be sufficient, kind of in lieu of a conservatorship. And so,
right.
what advice do you have for folks with that?
Well, the power of attorney is a good thing. We have lots of different kinds of powers of attorney. We have limited powers. We have durable power of attorney. And basically, what that means, if one person became incompetent, that durable power of attorney can even go past their incompetence. It cannot go past death. So again, I like for everybody to hear me. Get a will. Get a living will. If there's people you can trust in your family, get a durable power of attorney. You never know when you're going to need it.
All right, folks, we're going to take a short break, but if you're on the line, hold. We'll get back to your phone calls, and there are a few lines open, 737-plus, 737-7587. We'll be right back after this short break.